Today is August 6th. It's the 218th day of the year, and this is the On This Day podcast. On this day in 1945, the United States drops an atomic bomb on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. The atomic bomb dropped on this day is a gun-type fission weapon, nicknamed Little Boy. The bomb's explosive power comes from the nuclear fission of uranium-235. It's developed in Los Alamos Laboratory in Los Alamos, New Mexico, as part of the Manhattan Project, the top-secret program established to weaponize nuclear fission by President Franklin D. Roosevelt after he receives a letter from Albert Einstein and Leo Szilard urging him to harness the power of the split atom before the Germans do. Roosevelt dies in April 1945. Once President Truman is sworn in as the 33rd president, he is informed of the Manhattan Project. He writes in his diary, quote, "We have discovered the most terrible bomb in the history of the world." At the beginning of August 1945, it's clear the Japanese have no intention of surrendering, even though Allied forces are closing in on the Japanese mainland. An Allied invasion of Japan is the next step, codenamed Operation Downfall. Military planners estimate they will need an invasion force 4 times that of the Normandy D-Day force, and the estimated number of casualties is equally as high. According to William Shockley, working under Secretary of War Henry Stimson, a projected 400,000 to 800,000 American soldiers will lose their lives conquering Japan, and add to that a potential 5 to 10 million Japanese civilian fatalities. President Truman considers the alternative and gives the go-ahead for the mission that will carry Little Boy to Hiroshima. Little Boy is transported to the island of Tinian in the Mariana Islands on the USS Indianapolis in July of 1945. On the morning of August 6th, Little Boy is loaded into the belly of a B-29 Superfortress called Enola Gay, named for pilot Colonel Paul Tibbets's mother, Enola Gay Tibbets. The Enola Gay takes off from the North Field on Tinian, a tiny speck in the Pacific Ocean 1,500 miles southeast of Hiroshima. At 7:45 a.m. local time, in the air over Japan, the safety devices are removed from Little Boy, and the atomic bomb is armed. Half an hour later, as the Enola Gay flies 31,000 feet over the city, the bomb is dropped. After falling for 43 seconds, the atomic bomb Little Boy detonates 1,968 feet above Hiroshima, Japan, at 8:15 a.m. local time on this day in 1945. The bomb explodes directly over the Shima Surgical Clinic. 70 to 80,000 people are killed immediately or in the ensuing fire that consumes more than 4 square miles of the city, which is made up primarily of wooden and paper structures. Another 70,000 people are injured by the explosion, many suffering radiation poisoning, horrific burns. Some are blinded by the bright flash of the blast in the instant before a massive shock wave ripples out for a mile beyond ground zero. 28-year-old Army Doctor Hiroshi Sawachikahas has just entered his office 2.5 miles from ground zero and says hello to his colleagues. He remembers, quote, "I was about to approach my desk when outside it suddenly turned bright red. I felt very hot on my cheeks. Being the chief in the room, I shouted to the young men and women in the room that they should evacuate. As soon as I cried, I felt weightless, as if I were an astronaut. I was then unconscious for 20 or 30 seconds. When I came to, I realized that everybody, including myself, was lying at one side of the room. Nobody was standing. The desks and chairs had also been blown off to one side. At the windows, there was no window glass, and the window frames had been blown out as well. I went to the windows to find out where the bombing had taken place, and I saw the mushroom cloud over the gas company. Not too long after that, the wounded started arriving at Hiroshi's hospital. Quote, I stepped into the treatment room and found the room filled with the smell that was quite similar to the smell of dried squid when it's been grilled. The smell was quite strong. It's a sad reality that the smell human beings produce when they're burned is the same as that of dried squid when it's grilled. The squid we like so much to eat. 33-year-old Isao Kita is the chief weatherman at the District Weather Bureau, 2 miles from Ground Zero. Quote, the smoke from the fire, it was like a screen dividing the city into 2 parts. The sun was shining brightly just like it was in the middle of the summer over here on this side. And behind the clouds on the other side, it was completely dark. You could see the black rain falling. It seems that the rain fell quite heavy over a period of several hours. It was a black and sticky rain. It stuck to everything. When it fell on people's clothes, the clothing turned black. It also stuck on people's hands and feet. It couldn't be washed off. Yoshito Matsushiga is a 32-year-old cameraman for the Chugoku newspaper. Quote, there was a flash from the indoor wires. I didn't hear any sound. The world around me turned bright white, and I was momentarily blinded. Immediately after that, the blast came. I was bare from the waist up, and the blast was so intense it felt like hundreds of needles were stabbing me all at once. Yoshito digs his camera and some clothes out of the rubble of his office and heads out into the city, where he finds a group of junior high school girls. Quote, they were outside when the bomb fell. Having been directly exposed to the heat rays, they were covered with blisters the size of balls on their backs, their faces, their shoulders, and their arms. The blisters were starting to burst open, and their skin hung down like rugs. When I saw this, I thought I would take a picture, and I picked up my camera. But even though I too was a victim of the same bomb, I only had minor injuries from glass fragments, whereas these people were dying. It was such a cruel sight that I couldn't bring myself to press the shutter. There's a streetcar about a half-mile from Ground Zero with 100 people on it. The intense flash and blast engulfs the streetcar in flames. Only 10 people survive inside the Hachibori streetcar. 21-year-old Aiko Taoka is one of them. Quote, since I had been holding my son in my arms, the young woman in front of me said, please take this seat. We were just changing places when there was a strange smell and sound. It suddenly became dark, and before I knew it, I had jumped outside. I held my son firmly and looked down on him. He had been standing by the window, and I think fragments of glass had pierced his head. His face was a mess because of the blood flowing from his head. But he looked at my face and smiled. His smile has remained glued in my memory. He did not comprehend what had happened, and so he looked at me and smiled at my face, which was all bloody. I had plenty of milk, which he drank all throughout that day. I think my child sucked the poison right out of my body, and soon after that he died. Yes, I think that he died for me. 14-year-old Keiko Matsuda is another of the 10 streetcar survivors. Years later, she shares her memories along with the others as testimonies compiled by the Hiroshima Peace and Culture Foundation. Keiko recalls that after the bomb is dropped on this day, quote, it was very, very hot. I touched my skin and it just peeled right off. The driver of the streetcar was not in sight. I thought he had been quick to run away, but now I think that he was probably hurled outside in the blast. 3 weeks later, a pile of my hair just fell out all at once. I had a high fever and maggots infested my eyes. I had a bacterial skin infection as well. I have 2 children, but I have not told them about this experience, and I don't want to talk about it. 3 days later, on August 9th, a second atomic bomb, codenamed Fat Man, is dropped on the city of Nagasaki in southern Japan, with equally devastating effect. 6 days after that, on August 15th, Japan surrenders unconditionally, and World War II is over. The atomic bomb detonated in the sky over Hiroshima, Japan on this day in 1945, and the bomb dropped on Nagasaki 3 days later, are the first and only nuclear bombs dropped on a population as an act of war. So far. There are 147 days left in the year.